fairly priced at just $100 at around 99 all the way to as low as $88 in AliExpress. You can get this F1 Pro and it comes inside this box. Obviously the IEM itself here with this nice looking silver plated copper cable, and also this IEM already attached, 2-pin termination, and this carrying case here from NICEHCK, very nice looking. And inside you're gonna find, I believe, 3 type of silicone tips being offered, no foam tips. Wearing it is pretty much a very simple affair. If we look closely at the build and the construction of this F1 Pro, it is something which I would consider as kind of a bit thick, and with this kind of design which is rounded, and it is very well designed in a way, ergonomic. I was able to wear it like this quite comfortably, and I must admit that the seal is just fairly okay-ish. Don't expect the kind of seal which you can get from hard resin type of IEM, but at least the comfort level is definitely very good. Despite being a magnetic planar, it is super easy to drive. When I first received it, attach it directly to my phone here, which is Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, directly from the 3.5mm single-ended, I was surprised that I was able to get proper listening loudness at around just 70 out of 100. Now, to give you some perspective, a similar type of IEM like Hidis MP145 or Sivga Nightingale would require something close to 90%, but this one only needed 70%. And true indeed, when I attach it to my iBasso DX180 here, running on high gain, I only needed at around 28 to 30 out of 100 of volume. So that is super impressive, which also means that you can practically attach this F1 Pro to any device, no worries at all. F1 Pro is an energetic IEM, the kind of energy that you can expect from magnetic planar, which reminds me a lot to the likes of HiFiMan HE400 SE Stealth Edition. So when I say energetic, it is pretty much vibrant, engaging. The pace, the rhythm, and the timing itself is just kind of like, very fast. So it resolves really well, even the most complex of sound composition, to a point that, I would even say it is analytical, definitely. But then again, how analytical is it? If I were to put it into perspective, there's a good balance of being musical and analytical, which means that you're gonna get a lot of macro detail, and at the same time, the rhythm, the tempo of the sound presentation itself is definitely vibrant, engaging, and highly detailed. Despite appearing to be a fairly strong V sound curve unit, this F1 Pro is actually quite good with the mid-range. It is forward enough, it is immersive enough, it is frontal enough, and offering the kind of sound texture which I can really enjoy. It is well defined, creeps with imaging, and when it comes to vocal presentation, it is also transparent and accurate. So what I'm trying to say here is that when I listen to certain type of female vocal, especially like contralto, which is chesty, deep from Diana Krall, I am hearing the kind of correct interpretation of the sound itself. It does not sound colored at all, it does not sound warm, or it doesn't sound dry. And the same can be applied when I listen to baritone type of vocal from Nick Cave or even Morrissey. It is definitely the kind of sound which I would consider as accurate. And when it comes to instrument, especially guitars or even string instrument like violin, piano, the kind of tonality which I'm getting is, again, the keyword here is transparent, no coloration at all. I did mention earlier that this F1 Pro reminds me a lot to HiFiMan HE400 SE, that very popular magnetic planar. And when I say similar, in fact, the similarities are most prominent with the upper frequency, the treble region. So let's just have a closer look. When I say similar, it also means that this F1 Pro is as bright sounding as Harman HE400 SE, which I have tested, which I am so very familiar with. So when I say bright, I did mention earlier it is energetic, vibrant, and the kind of sound which reveal a lot of micro detail with the decay itself. But at the same time, when I listen to certain type of music, especially like this the Smith song, which is Reel Around the Fountain, I can clearly hear that there's a metallic tint to the sound itself. But it is not always the same. Not the case with some other recording which is properly mastered and recorded. But then again, I am hearing pretty much similar thing across so many other recording which exhibit a lot of treble decays. So if you are sensitive to treble, you might want to consider something else which is not as bright sounding as this F1 Pro. You can expect amazing performance from this F1 Pro. It is the kind of bass which I would associate more from dynamic driver, very well tuned dynamic driver rather than a magnetic planar. So what I'm trying to say here is that it does not sound hollow, it does not sound flat at all. In fact, the bass performance of this F1 Pro is pretty much very well resolved, strong imaging, it is fast as it is tidy. And for example, the mid bass itself, like I say, it is vibrant, engaging, and full of authority. But at the same time, it never attempt to subdue or bleed into the lower mids or even subdue the sub bass itself. And when it comes to the sub bass itself, the focus of the sub bass is more towards being crispy sounding rather than smooth sounding. So in return, what you're gonna get is something which will dissolve. The decay state of it is more solid with the macro detail rather than the micro detail. On the technical side, this F1 Pro is also an excellent performer, highly analytical, being able to resolve macro and micro detail properly, the kind of resolution, imaging, which I would normally associate with very well-tuned magnetic planar. But I think most importantly is the soundstage. It is one of the few IEM which I would consider as truly wide and open sounding, pretty much comparable to Hidis MP145 or even Final Audio A5000. And when it comes to spatial imaging, I have tried gaming with this F1 Pro, and I will admit that it is fairly holographic, but not exactly the kind of holographic experience which you can get from multiple driver IEM. And at least the immersion factor is really good when it comes to gaming for this F1 Pro. With so many new IEM being released almost on weekly basis, even for magnetic planar, so where does this F1 Pro stands in the entire ecosystem? Let's just quickly compare it with some of the popular magnetic planar IEM in the market nowadays. Let's just compare it with Hidis MP145, which is very popular. Now, I would just simply say that Hidis MP145 and F1 Pro shares many things in common. Both of them are energetic, V sound curve, analytical, musical, and very fast with dynamic transient. But then again, if I were to look closer, definitely I would say that this F1 Pro offer the kind of lower frequency which is more appealing to people who love big bass for bass head, because MP145 bass performance is not that heavy. But then again, if you would want to have a bit more of, let's say, aggression in the upper frequency as well, you might want to choose F1 Pro over Hidis MP145. And then let's just compare it with some of the competition in the market, like, you know, this Let's Shure S12 or even 7Hz timeless, which is both of them are exceedingly popular. Then the same thing, I would just simply say that this thing is a bit more bassier than the other two IEM. But then again, the other two IEM offer a bit more of transparency and a bit more of smoothness when it comes to the overall sound presentation. In short, to make it simple, just click on the link below for Andy Ordervoort ranking system, and you would see that this F1 Pro scores 60 out of 100, with high score when it comes to pace, rhythm and timing, high score when it comes to bass performance, and high score also when it comes to soundstage. Those are the three key strengths of this F1 Pro. So if these are the things that you are looking for, this is my recommendation.